All right, so Dan, you're in Cali. We have some other people in California that are in Clubhouse and also watching us on YouTube. But something big just happened with single-family zoning in California, right? Governor Gavin Newsom, who is appreciated by many. He actually,
I mean, when you look at the numbers for the last recall election, it got shot down exponentially. Apparently. But yes,
you know what? I honestly, I think there are a lot of people that wanted him to stay so that they could have something to point against too, though. I think that went both ways. But anyway,
sure.
The first, he signed 2 bills meant to make it easier to build more housing in California. The first is Senate Bill 9, makes it possible to build more than one housing unit on land that was previously designated for only one unit.
Now, this one on the surface is interesting, and I think the right way to go, because if you have now it does state like you can't, farmland and land, how did they say it in the article, land that's highly likely to flood or anything like that, you can't do it there. But if you have a 10,000 square foot lot and you want to build an ADU on it, just makes it easier, which I understand that. The SB 10 is the one that I'm concerned about, but the SB 9
what? So SB 10 allows for denser development near public transit corridors, such as buses and train lines. Why are you more concerned with that one?
Okay, but my cat's doing the thing again. So here's my issue is that these areas are already denser areas. Like when you ride the train, you're not going through a bunch of rural areas where they're going to start building. You're going through downtowns. You're going through cities. And these cities, a lot of times, were harder hit and have had a train line carved through their streets. So they're already dense. Now what's going to happen is they can either, if it's now able to be zoned R2, they can now add more density, we can further densify. I don't know what the word is here. We can further add density to our already dense population in these areas. It's majorly concerning to me, because also the bigger concern is I'm watching our beautiful hills and our beautiful, landscape being eaten away by new construction. I literally watched the top of a mountain get cut off and boom, there's houses there now. We don't necessarily need more new construction here in California. We need things in place that help sellers, loosen up and sell their homes. But we have plenty of homes. But I get it. I understand, because it's just hard to get a house. So if I can just, it's cheaper to build than to buy, right? Well, usually not necessarily with lumber prices, but if I can just add into my backyard, add a house back there, cool. Then my family can live with me. But the density is what I'm concerned about. We're just going to end up living on top of each other, because
all the roads and all the everything will
become the infrastructure is going to be stressed. It's already stressed. The potholes are insane in most parts. I think water, electricity, power, all that stuff. It's all going to be stressed even more in our infrastructure. And I'm speaking mostly of LA. And if Jan said he was South Bay, so I always joke that's the other side of California for me, even though we're not that far apart, but he's on the other side. I don't work his area because it's really only 50 miles, but it takes you an hour and a half, 2 hours to get there. But he can probably speak to this because he's in those areas and it's already very, very dense. So I'm concerned. I understand the sentiment behind it. I understand why they're doing it, but I'm concerned about what this is going to do for the future of construction, because we're already building houses on top of houses, like literally,
and house hacking.
And house hacking, they're already, our potholes have nothing on Jersey, Melissa says. But so I'm concerned about what it's going to do, because houses are already shrinking down to, we call them patio homes, where it's a 2,500 square foot house on a 2,600 square foot lot, and they're all just jammed against each other. And that, to me, like when I look at where Ray lives and just the beautiful landscape, and everyone's got these huge lots, and it's like, hey, I understand more people want to live here. I get that.
Don't tell.
But people. I know, but Arkansas is horrible, by the way. You don't want to move there. Anyway, you would hate it. but I'm concerned about the future of just more and more densely packed people and people getting angrier and they live on top of each other and they hate each other. This one gives me great anxiety.
Didn't they say that they'll allow now 2 dwellings on a 2,000 something square foot house? So now, or square foot property. Yeah. The subdivided lots have to be at least 1,200 square feet.
And then they'll have to approve 800.
And the units have to be at least 800 square feet.
Right. And so imagine that's just a tiny little lot with a tiny little house. And then it also, if you go on, it says something about units up to 10 or buildings up to 10 units as well. So it's just gonna,
well, Michael Elizabeth,
yeah,
else
she gets
it. You can't be concerned about density when we all know everyone is fleeing California. Yeah.
Right.
Every other article every month,
which is true.
But where's Christina M. Smallhorn? Because this is like right up her alley, talking about the tiny homes and the development of tiny homes. Could you see more? Like, I would think that there would be parcels of land. So I can't imagine like a development sitting in California right now that's not being built on. Like, what are the reasons? The Mellore's? That, like, I can't imagine a single family development sitting there not being built on currently at the current prices, and a developer saying, you know what, we really need 800 square foot homes on this one instead of 2,000 square foot homes on this one.
Right.
So I see what you're talking about, more densely packed people. I see
my concern isn't about the size of the home. It's about the homes per lots now. If they can keep making these lots smaller.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, maybe.
Well, maybe. I mean, that would be cool to have a development of tiny homes out there just to house more people in a smaller area.
Right.
But I think there's a couple of things that's kind of boggling my mind. One is the impact on infrastructure, which you were saying.
Yes.
But isn't this also going to negatively impact the outskirts of areas in California that are being developed with larger lots and things like that? If somebody can get in, won't that slow down the progression of the rural development? Is it a good thing or a bad thing in California?
Rural development is great as long as because when I go to the outskirts, farther away from things, then that's what you do see. You do see the houses that with the bigger lots and all that stuff. So that's where I would be concerned, where they're going to start adopting what the more densely populated areas do. And all of a sudden now, because what can that builder do? That builder can put more houses on the space on the land that they owned. And that I don't know. I'm worried about this one. The first part, what is it? SB 9, that one's good. And it does have a bunch of caveats, a bunch of asterisks. So that's good because it helps. If you already own your house, you can add another. It makes it easier to add on an ADU essentially. But the future of it is what concerns me.
This is into law now, right? Like it's the rule, right? Yeah. He signed it, but there's nothing else that has to that has to happen.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens to single family. The ADU guy was talking about it. He was pretty pumped. Rogelio, he's in Clubhouse. Like, this is people can build another dwelling, another unit. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, but that's the SB 9 though, not the SB 10. That one,
right?
Yeah.
The SB 10 is the one that's more concerned.
Did Jan have anything on this? I don't know I haven't seen if he flashes his mic or not.
Yeah, he flashes.
Yeah, there you go.
Hang on, just a second. All right, Jan, how do you feel about this, man?
Oh man, it's funny that Dan said that because I've been preaching about this, that in South Bay it's been so popular, and from many years ago, like decades ago, they started this, and that's why a lot of builders, including our office, we've been involved in buying the old lots, tearing them down, building townhomes, the R2 type of thing, like when it's an R2 zone, and then you can add change a single family into a townhome type of thing. So this is it's been great for the city of, for example, Redondo Beach or South Bay, and this could be great for the whole Los Angeles and California as the big picture. And I think it's great, but like Dan, I'm kind of worried about what it could bring in, like the density, and because it may not be planned out or thought out from this point, because it's just the idea is great, but then how about, like, LA is terrible when it comes to transportation, to traffic, stuff like that. So have they thought about that? Have they do we have the infrastructure for something like that, of that magnitude? So that's my concern. And the cities will have their own overlays, like the city of Manhattan Beach, for example, for the ADUs, they had a lot of overlays that kind of made it impossible for you to do that. So it's interesting to see how it plays out as it comes to practice. But the idea is good and it's going to help, and I think it will, to a certain extent, add to the frenzy for the single family home. I always joke around that this was the COVID impact, the drive and excitement about single family homes versus condos, because people were staying in their homes and they
Yeah.
were just trying to find a better place to stay, so a backyard and stuff like that. So this will just add to that level of excitement because they will see a potential financial benefit in buying a single family home versus a condo or a townhome. So but I'm just kind of worried about because they do something and they never think about what's going to be next. And then when we are there, then they try to put another policy in place, and they just, it's like just they do whatever they can at that time. So that's my concern of like the city planning and what's ahead. So that was my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I love that because he's in the more city version. I'm technically outskirts from him, but still very densely packed. But yeah, so I'm glad we get an LA agent on there, and it does have it does specifically say, because he kind of mentioned it for the lower income housing. So it says units reserved for low income housing or that had been rented within the previous 3 years could not be altered or demolished. That's a big one. Altered, I think, is a little far reaching, because what if it's in poor shape? You need to, fix it up, right? The point is to avoid reducing the supply of rental and affordable units. So you can't come in, buy a lot, tear everything down, and then build up, whatever you want to build up on it.
Yeah.
So
in a lot of areas, the planned unit development areas and things like that, neither one of these is going to make a difference because they're all going to have their rules. And like even Jan said, the cities themselves are going to have overlays that make some of this impossible, but they're all going to have their rules. They're all going to have, the covenants and restrictions on properties that make it impossible to do. But there could be newer areas, newer developments, or even old ones that there's no longer a POA. There's no longer anything governing how the usage of the property is other than the owner of that property.
yeah.
Those areas are going to have some interesting things pop up. So I'm really curious to see how it's going to affect some of the older areas of California, maybe some of the areas that people are talking about that are going through the gentrification. What's going to happen then if the homes are smaller and more compact? Could it be
Right.
then more approachable for the people that are currently in those areas renting? Could they then purchase? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But
Chuck has a great
agree.
point. If you want to bring that, there you go.
Chuck Lynn, he says, where's all the water going to come from for the extra building? Here in the Antelope Valley of California, lots of flat land, but no water certificates for building.
Yeah, and we're already constantly short on water, right?
Water certificates.